The morning sun filtered through the ancient windows of Adelaide Cottage as Catherine, Princess of Wales, sat quietly at her wooden desk, her fingers trembling slightly as they hovered over the keyboard. For months, the world had watched, wondered, and whispered about her mysterious absence from royal duties. Conspiracy theories swirled like autumn leaves in a storm, each more outlandish than the last. But today, on her 43rd birthday, she was ready to break her silence with words that would change everything. The woman who had once stood confidently beside future kings, who had smiled through countless royal engagements and weathered media storms with grace, now faced her most personal and frightening battle yet. Cancer, a word that had the power to stop time, to make even princesses feel utterly human and vulnerable. As she prepared to share her truth with the world, Catherine knew that her story wasn't just about royal duty or public service anymore. It was about something far more universal and profound, the raw, unfiltered journey of a mother, a wife, and a woman fighting for her life while the entire world watched. What she was about to reveal would not only shock her millions of admirers but would also transform how the world viewed the modern monarchy. This wasn't just a birthday message, it was a declaration of survival, hope, and the unbreakable strength that emerges from our darkest moments. The princess who had always chosen her words carefully was about to speak from the deepest corners of her heart, and the world was about to witness courage in its purest form. The first signs came like whispers in the dark, so subtle that Catherine almost dismissed them entirely. It was early autumn when she first noticed the persistent fatigue that seemed to settle into her bones like morning frost. As someone who had always prided herself on boundless energy, juggling royal duties with raising 3 young children, this sudden exhaustion felt foreign and unsettling. She would wake up feeling as though she hadn't slept at all, despite spending long hours in bed. Prince William was the first to notice the change in his wife. During their private moments at Kensington Palace, he watched as Catherine struggled to maintain her usual enthusiasm during bedtime stories with Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. The woman who once could chase the children around the garden for hours now found herself needing to sit down after just a few minutes of play. When he gently broached the subject, Catherine brushed off his concerns with her characteristic determination. "I'm just tired, William," she would say, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's been a busy season with all the engagements. I'll be fine after some rest." But rest didn't come easily. Catherine found herself lying awake at night, staring at the ornate ceiling of their bedroom, her mind racing with thoughts she couldn't quite organize. During the day, she pushed through her royal duties with the same grace and poise that had made her beloved by the British public, but those closest to her began to notice the subtle changes. Her lady-in-waiting mentioned that the princess seemed to need more breaks between events. Her personal protection officer noted that she was walking more slowly during public appearances. The turning point came during a visit to a children's hospital in London. Catherine had always found immense joy in these particular engagements, connecting with young patients and their families brought her a sense of purpose that went beyond royal protocol. But, as she knelt beside a little girl's bed, listening to stories about brave battles against illness, Catherine felt a strange tightness in her chest that had nothing to do with emotion. She excused herself to the bathroom, where she gripped the marble countertop and stared at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at her seemed different somehow, as though a light had dimmed behind her eyes. Her usually radiant complexion appeared pale, and she noticed dark circles that her careful makeup could no longer completely conceal. That evening, as Catherine tucked Charlotte into bed, her daughter looked up with those perceptive eyes that seemed far too wise for her young age. "Mummy, why do you look sad?" Charlotte asked, her small hand reaching up to touch her mother's face. Catherine's heart broke a little as she realized that even her children were beginning to sense that something wasn't right. The decision to see a doctor wasn't made lightly. As a member of the royal family, Catherine understood that every medical appointment, every consultation, would be scrutinized by the media and the public. She had watched how other royals had their health struggles dissected in tabloid headlines and knew the circus that could ensue. But William's gentle persistence, combined with her own growing concern, finally convinced her to seek answers. Dr. Sarah Thompson, the royal family's trusted physician, conducted the initial examination at a private clinic in London. Catherine appreciated the doctor's straightforward manner and her obvious respect for the gravity of treating a member of the royal family. The preliminary tests seemed routine enough: blood work, physical examination, questions about her symptoms and family history. "I want to run some additional tests," Dr. Thompson said carefully, her professional demeanor not quite masking a hint of concern. "What you're experiencing could be related to several different factors, and I want to be thorough." Catherine felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning in the medical office. The way Dr. Thompson avoided her eyes while making notes suggested that the doctor's concerns went deeper than simple exhaustion or stress. The wait for results felt endless. Catherine threw herself into her royal duties with renewed vigor, as though staying busy could somehow change whatever the tests might reveal. She attended a charity gala for mental health awareness, where she delivered a speech about the importance of seeking help when needed. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was encouraging others to address their health concerns while struggling to face her own. During this period of uncertainty, Catherine found herself treasuring ordinary moments with extraordinary intensity. Breakfast with the children became sacred time, each laugh and silly story from Prince Louis seeming precious beyond measure. Evening walks with William through the grounds of their various residences took on new meaning, as though she was trying to memorize every detail of their shared life. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Catherine was reviewing her calendar for the upcoming week. Dr. Thompson's voice was gentle but direct. "Your Highness, I need you to come in today. We have the results, and there are some things we need to discuss immediately." Catherine's hands began to shake as she hung up the phone. She sat in her private study, surrounded by photos of her family and mementos from years of royal service, and felt the world shift beneath her feet. Whatever Dr. Thompson had to tell her, she sensed it would change everything. William was in meetings at Buckingham Palace when Catherine called him. She tried to keep her voice steady, but he knew her too well not to hear the underlying panic. "I need you to come with me to see Dr. Thompson," she said simply. "Today." He cancelled his remaining appointments without question. As they drove to the clinic together in silence, Catherine stared out the window at London passing by. People on the streets went about their daily lives, completely unaware that their future queen was about to receive news that would shake her to her core. The afternoon sunlight streaming through Dr. Thompson's office window created patterns on the carpet that Catherine found herself focusing on intensely, as though memorizing these details could somehow delay whatever was coming next. When the doctor began to speak, her words seemed to come from very far away, even though she was sitting just across the desk. "Cancer." The word hung in the air like a physical presence, heavy and unmovable. Catherine felt William's hand find hers and squeeze tightly, anchoring her to the moment even as her mind threatened to spiral into panic and disbelief. Dr. Thompson explained the diagnosis with compassionate professionalism, detailing the type and stage, the treatment options, and the prognosis. Catherine heard the words but struggled to process their meaning. This happened to other people, not to her. Not to someone with 3 young children depending on her. Not to someone with royal duties and public expectations weighing on her shoulders. "What happens now?" William asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. Catherine was grateful that he could speak, because her own voice seemed to have disappeared entirely. The conversation that followed covered treatment protocols, specialist consultations, and the complex logistics of managing a royal patient's medical care while maintaining appropriate privacy and security. Catherine found herself nodding at appropriate moments while her mind raced ahead to all the implications this diagnosis would have on her family and her role. As they left the clinic that day, Catherine felt as though she was walking through a dream. The world looked the same as it had that morning, but everything had changed. The diagnosis wasn't just about her health, it was about their family's future, about the monarchy, about the millions of people who looked to her as a symbol of stability and grace. That night, after they had processed the initial shock together, Catherine and William faced the monumental task of deciding how to tell their children. George, at 11, was old enough to understand the seriousness of the situation, but Charlotte and Louis would need the news delivered in a way that wouldn't terrify them while still being honest about why their mother might need to step back from some of her usual activities. Catherine lay awake that night, not from the physical symptoms that had brought her to this point, but from the weight of uncertainty that now pressed down on her chest. Tomorrow, they would begin the process of assembling her medical team and developing a treatment plan. They would need to inform the king and other senior royals, and, eventually, they would have to decide what to tell the public. But tonight, she simply held William close and listened to him breathe, grateful for this moment of quiet before the storm of treatment, media attention, and public scrutiny that she knew was coming. The journey ahead would test everything she thought she knew about strength, courage, and what it truly meant to serve others while fighting the battle of her life. The royal household operates like a well-oiled machine, with hundreds of staff members coordinating schedules, managing logistics, and maintaining the delicate balance between public duty and private life. In the days following Catherine's diagnosis, this usually efficient system suddenly felt like an impossibly complex puzzle that needed to be completely rebuilt. Sir Clive Alderton, the King's private secretary, arrived at Kensington Palace 2 days after Catherine received her diagnosis. His presence in their private drawing room felt surreal to Catherine, as though official royal business had invaded the most personal crisis of her life. William sat beside her on their familiar sofa, his hand never leaving hers as they navigated this uncharted territory. "Your Majesties," Sir Clive began, his tone respectful but businesslike, "we need to discuss how to manage this situation while protecting both your privacy and the stability of the crown." Catherine appreciated his directness, even as the phrase "manage the situation" made her cancer feel like a public relations challenge rather than a deeply personal health crisis. They spent the next several hours discussing protocol, security arrangements for her medical care, and the complex question of when and how to inform the public. "The public has a right to know about significant health issues affecting senior royals," Sir Clive explained, "but we also have a responsibility to protect your family's privacy and ensure that your treatment isn't compromised by excessive media attention." Catherine found herself thinking about Princess Diana, about how the press had pursued her relentlessly even in her most vulnerable moments. The idea of facing cancer treatment while being photographed and analyzed by tabloids felt overwhelming, but she also understood that complete secrecy wasn't possible or appropriate for someone in her position. King Charles, who had his own experience with cancer treatment, visited them privately that evening. Catherine had always respected her father-in-law, but seeing him in their sitting room as she faced her own diagnosis created an unexpected bond between them. His understanding of what lay ahead was evident in his gentle questions and practical advice. "The treatment itself is difficult enough," he said quietly, "but the public aspect adds layers of complexity that most people never have to consider. We'll make sure you have the best possible support system in place." The decision to temporarily step back from public duties was made jointly by Catherine, William, and the royal household's senior staff. Catherine's calendar, which had been carefully planned months in advance, needed to be completely restructured. Garden parties, charity galas, overseas tours, and countless other engagements had to be postponed or reassigned to other members of the royal family. Catherine's private secretary, Hannah Cockburn-Logie, worked tirelessly to manage the logistics while maintaining discretion. Phone calls were made to charity patrons, event organizers, and government officials, explaining only that the princess would be temporarily unavailable due to personal circumstances. The official line was that Catherine was taking some time away from public duties to focus on her young family. The children's schools were quietly informed that there might be some changes to the family's usual routines. Catherine insisted on maintaining as much normalcy as possible for George, Charlotte, and Louis, but she knew that some adjustments would be inevitable. The Royal Protection Team worked with medical professionals to ensure that Catherine's treatment could be conducted with appropriate security and privacy measures in place. Dr. Thompson assembled a world-class medical team to oversee Catherine's care. The lead oncologist, Dr. Michael Hartwell, came highly recommended and had experience treating high-profile patients who required discretion. During their first consultation, Catherine was struck by his matter-of-fact approach to her diagnosis and his obvious expertise in the specific type of cancer she was facing. "We're going to approach this aggressively but thoughtfully," Dr. Hartwell explained, spreading out treatment plans and timelines on the conference table in his private office. "The good news is that we've caught this at a stage where we have excellent treatment options and very encouraging prognosis statistics." Catherine appreciated his optimism while also recognizing the challenges ahead. The treatment protocol would involve several months of chemotherapy, possibly followed by additional procedures depending on how she responded to the initial treatment. The side effects would likely include fatigue, nausea, and hair loss, among others. The reality of losing her hair hit Catherine harder than she had expected. Her long, glossy brown hair had always been one of her signature features, frequently featured in fashion magazines and carefully styled for royal appearances. The idea of facing the world without it felt like losing part of her identity. "We can arrange for the finest wig makers in London," her stylist suggested during a private consultation. "No one needs to know that anything has changed." But Catherine found herself questioning whether complete concealment was the right approach. She thought about the women she had met during hospital visits, brave mothers and daughters fighting their own battles with cancer. Many of them had spoken about the freedom they eventually found in being open about their struggles. The first chemotherapy session was scheduled for early November at a private medical facility in central London. Catherine woke that morning with a mixture of determination and terror. William insisted on driving her to the appointment himself, despite the security concerns this created for their protection team. The treatment center had been carefully selected for its discretion and expertise in handling high-profile patients. Catherine was given a private suite where she could receive treatment away from other patients and potential media attention. As the four-drip began delivering the powerful medications into her bloodstream, she felt as though she was crossing a bridge that she couldn't uncross. William sat beside her throughout the 3-hour session, reading aloud from books they both enjoyed and sharing quiet conversation about the children's school activities and weekend plans. Catherine appreciated his determination to keep things feeling normal, even in such an abnormal situation. The first side effects appeared within days. The fatigue was unlike anything Catherine had ever experienced, a bone-deep exhaustion that made even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Getting dressed for breakfast with the children became a monumental effort, though she was determined not to let them see how difficult everything had become. Nausea followed, arriving in waves that were unpredictable and debilitating. Catherine found herself grateful for the privacy of their home, where she could rest between bouts of illness without worrying about public appearances or royal protocols. The anti-nausea medications helped but came with their own side effects, creating a complex balancing act of symptoms and treatments. 3 weeks into treatment, Catherine noticed the first signs of hair loss. She discovered loose strands on her pillow one morning and felt a jolt of panic that took her by surprise. She had known this was coming, had prepared for it intellectually, but the emotional impact was stronger than expected. That afternoon, she made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. Instead of waiting for her hair to fall out gradually, she asked her longtime hairdresser to cut it all off. "I want to do this on my terms," she told William, who supported her choice without question. The act of cutting her hair felt both devastating and liberating. As the long brown locks fell to the floor, Catherine felt as though she was shedding not just her hair but also some of her fears about what lay ahead. She was still herself, still a mother and wife and princess, regardless of how she looked. The wig fittings that followed were surreal experiences. Catherine tried on various styles and colors, marveling at how different she looked with each option. Some looked remarkably like her natural hair, while others offered the opportunity to try completely different looks. She found herself laughing during one fitting when she tried on a platinum blonde wig that made her look like an entirely different person. Managing the children's reactions to her changing appearance required careful planning and honest conversation. Catherine and William decided to tell them about her treatment gradually, sharing information appropriate to each child's age and ability to understand. George, as the oldest, was given more complete information, while Charlotte and Louis were told that Mummy was taking special medicine that might make her tired and look different sometimes. Charlotte's reaction was typically direct. "Mummy, you look pretty with short hair too," she said matter-of-factly when Catherine first appeared without her wig at home. Louis, at his young age, seemed less concerned about his mother's appearance than about whether she still had energy to play with him. The decision about when to inform the public about her diagnosis became increasingly pressing as Catherine's treatment progressed. Rumors had already begun circulating about her absence from public duties, with tabloids speculating about everything from marital problems to secret pregnancies. Catherine found these wild theories both amusing and frustrating, but she also understood that the public's curiosity about her well-being came from genuine concern and affection. During a family dinner at Windsor Castle in December, King Charles raised the subject of public communication directly. "The speculation is becoming increasingly intrusive," he said gently. "At some point, we may need to provide some clarification to protect both your privacy and the monarchy's credibility."
Catherine understood the delicate balance he was describing.
Too much secrecy could fuel conspiracy theories and undermine public trust, while too much openness could turn her treatment into a media circus that would be harmful to her recovery and her family's well-being. The Christmas season brought both challenges and unexpected joys. Catherine was determined to make the holidays special for her children, despite feeling weaker than ever. The traditional royal Christmas at Sandringham was modified to accommodate her treatment schedule and energy levels. Some events were skipped entirely, while others were shortened to allow for more rest. On Christmas morning, as Catherine watched her children open presents with the same excitement they showed every year, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. The cancer had changed many things about their lives, but the love and joy within their family remained constant. Whatever challenges lay ahead in the new year, this foundation would sustain them all. The new year arrived with fresh snow covering the grounds of Anmer Hall, the Norfolk estate where Catherine and her family had chosen to spend more time during her treatment. Away from the bustling activity of London and the constant attention that surrounded their primary residences, this countryside retreat offered a sanctuary where Catherine could focus on healing without the weight of royal expectations pressing down on every moment. January brought intensified treatment protocols as Dr. Hartwell adjusted Catherine's chemotherapy regimen based on how her body had responded to the initial months of treatment. The new combination of drugs was more aggressive, designed to target the cancer cells that had shown some resistance to the earlier medications. Catherine faced this escalation with characteristic determination, though privately she struggled with the increasing toll the treatment was taking on her body. The morning ritual of taking her medications had become a complex routine involving multiple pills at precise times, each serving a specific purpose in her treatment plan. Anti-nausea medications taken 30 minutes before eating, supplements to support her immune system, and the powerful chemotherapy drugs that were simultaneously saving her life and making her feel sicker than she had ever imagined possible. William had restructured his own royal duties to be present for as many of Catherine's treatment sessions as possible. On the days when his official responsibilities kept him away, Catherine's mother, Carol Middleton, quietly took his place. Carol's presence provided a different kind of comfort, the unconditional love and practical support that only a mother can offer during times of crisis. "You don't have to be brave for me," Carol told Catherine during one particularly difficult treatment session, as Catherine struggled not to show how nauseated the latest drug combination was making her feel. "I'm your mother. You can let me see how hard this really is." This permission to be vulnerable, even temporarily, came as a relief to Catherine, who had spent months trying to maintain strength and composure for everyone around her. In her mother's presence, she could admit to the bone-deep exhaustion that made even reading bedtime stories to her children feel overwhelming some evenings. The children's adaptation to their mother's illness continued to evolve throughout the winter months. George, now fully aware of the seriousness of her condition, had become almost protective of Catherine's energy and privacy. He would quietly redirect his younger siblings when they became too boisterous around their mother, and Catherine often caught him watching her with concerned eyes that seemed far too mature for his age. Charlotte approached her mother's illness with characteristic pragmatism, asking direct questions about treatment schedules and side effects. She seemed to find comfort in understanding the logistics of what was happening, often reminding Catherine about medication times or treatment appointments with the efficiency of a personal assistant. Louis, at his youngest age, remained largely unaware of the gravity of the situation but had become more clingy, as though sensing that his mother needed extra cuddles and attention. Catherine treasured these moments when he would climb into her lap during story time or fall asleep against her shoulder during quiet afternoons at home. The royal household had developed intricate systems for managing Catherine's condition while maintaining the appearance of normalcy for the outside world. Her private secretary worked closely with Kensington Palace's communications team to carefully craft explanations for her continued absence from public duties, always balancing truthfulness with appropriate privacy. The princess continues to focus on her recovery and, spending time with her young family, became the standard response to media inquiries about when Catherine might return to her royal responsibilities. This carefully neutral language was designed to satisfy public curiosity without revealing details that Catherine and William felt should remain private. Behind the scenes, however, Catherine remained actively involved in many of her charitable organizations and patronages through private video calls and written communications. She found that maintaining these connections to her royal work provided a sense of purpose and normalcy that was crucial to her emotional well-being during treatment. The video calls with charity representatives took place in a small study at Anmerhall that had been set up with proper lighting and technology to ensure Catherine looked as well as possible on camera. Her styling team had become expert at using makeup and wigs to create an appearance of health and vitality that didn't always match how she was feeling physically. During one memorable call with the board of a children's mental health charity, Catherine found herself discussing the importance of resilience and emotional support during difficult times, speaking from a depth of personal experience that she couldn't fully explain to the participants. Her words carried new weight and authenticity that came directly from her own journey through fear and uncertainty. February brought a significant milestone when scans revealed that Catherine's cancer was responding well to the treatment. Dr. Hartwell's excitement was carefully professional, but Catherine could see genuine satisfaction in his expression as he explained the positive changes the scans showed. The tumors had shrunk significantly, and there were no signs of spread to other parts of her body. "This is exactly what we hoped to see," he told Catherine and William during their consultation. "Your body is responding beautifully to the treatment protocol. We're going to continue with the current regimen for another 6 weeks, then reassess where we stand." This good news provided a boost to Catherine's spirits that carried her through the challenging final weeks of intensive treatment. The end was finally in sight, and she began to allow herself to imagine a future beyond cancer, beyond the endless cycle of treatment sessions and recovery periods. Spring's arrival at Anmerhall seemed to mirror Catherine's own journey toward healing. As the daffodils pushed through the soil and the trees began to show their first green buds, Catherine felt her own energy slowly beginning to return. The walks in the garden that had been brief and exhausting during the worst of her treatment gradually became longer and more enjoyable. The decision about when and how to return to public life became a frequent topic of discussion between Catherine, William, and the royal household staff. There was no precedent for how a senior royal should handle such a situation, and everyone involved was navigating uncharted territory. "We want to ensure that your first public appearance sends the right message," explained the palace's communications director during one of their planning sessions. "It should demonstrate your recovery while also acknowledging what you've been through. The public has been incredibly supportive, and they deserve to see that their concern and well wishes have been meaningful." Catherine found herself thinking deeply about what message she wanted to convey when she did step back into the public eye. The experience of cancer treatment had changed her in ways that went far beyond physical appearance. She felt more aware of her own mortality, more grateful for ordinary moments with her family, and more connected to the struggles of others facing serious health challenges. The wig that had become her constant companion during treatment began to feel less necessary as her own hair started to grow back in soft, fine patches. Catherine was surprised to discover that her new hair was coming in with a slightly different texture and color than before, as though even her body was determined to mark this experience as a transformation rather than simply returning to what was. Her first tentative steps back into royal duties began with private meetings and small, carefully selected engagements that wouldn't draw significant media attention. A visit to a local children's center near Anmerhall allowed Catherine to test her energy levels and comfort with public interaction without the pressure of major ceremonial events or extensive media coverage. The children at the center greeted her with the same enthusiasm they had always shown, seemingly unaware that anything had changed about their royal visitor. Catherine found their innocent joy and energy to be healing in ways that no medical treatment could provide. Playing games with toddlers and listening to stories from slightly older children reminded her of why she had always been drawn to work with young people. These small, private engagements gradually built Catherine's confidence about returning to more visible royal duties. Each successful appearance proved to herself that she could still fulfill her role as a senior royal while managing her ongoing recovery and the follow-up care that would continue for months to come. The question of when to publicly address her cancer diagnosis became more urgent as spring progressed into early summer. Media speculation about her absence had intensified, with some publications beginning to ask more direct questions about her health. The palace's policy of providing minimal information was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. During a family meeting at Windsor Castle in May, Catherine made the decision that would ultimately lead to her birthday message several months later. She would tell her story in her own words, on her own timeline, when she felt ready to do so fully and honestly. I want people to understand that this isn't just about me, she told William and the king during their discussion. There are thousands of women facing this same battle, and many of them don't have the advantages I've had. If sharing my experience can help others feel less alone or encourage them to seek treatment early, then the privacy we've lost will have been worth something. This sense of purpose beyond her own recovery became the driving force behind Catherine's plan to eventually speak publicly about her cancer journey. She began to envision a way to transform her personal struggle into something that could benefit others facing similar challenges, turning her royal platform into a tool for awareness and hope rather than simply returning to the ceremonial duties that had defined her role before diagnosis. Summer arrived at Anmer Hall with an explosion of color and life that seemed to mirror Catherine's gradual emergence from the darkest period of her cancer treatment. The gardens that she had viewed from her bedroom window during those exhausting months of chemotherapy now beckoned her outside with the promise of fresh air and gentle exercise that her medical team encouraged as part of her recovery. Dr. Hartwell's assessment in early June had been cautiously optimistic but definitive. The scan showed no remaining evidence of active cancer cells, and Catherine's blood work indicated that her body was responding well to the maintenance treatment that would continue for several more months. The word remission felt both miraculous and fragile when he first spoke it aloud during their consultation. We're not declaring victory yet, he explained carefully, but we are entering a new phase where our focus shifts from active treatment to monitoring and prevention. Your body has done remarkable work in fighting this disease. Catherine felt a complex mixture of relief, gratitude, and lingering fear as she processed this news. The months of treatment had taught her that cancer was not a battle with a clear victory line but rather a journey that would continue to influence her health decisions and awareness for the rest of her life. Still, reaching remission felt like emerging from a tunnel she had sometimes feared might never end. The physical process of recovery proved to be more gradual than Catherine had anticipated. While the aggressive treatments had successfully targeted the cancer, they had also taken a significant toll on her overall health and stamina. Simple activities that had once been effortless now required careful pacing and realistic expectations about her energy levels. Her hair, which had begun growing back in late spring, was now forming soft curls that were noticeably different from her previous straight locks. Catherine found herself fascinated by this small but visible sign of how profoundly the treatment had affected her body. Her longtime hairdresser worked with her to find styles that would work with the new texture and gradually increasing length. It's actually quite fashionable, her stylist remarked during one of their sessions at Anmer Hall. Many women would pay good money for curls like these. Catherine appreciated the attempt at humor, but she was still adjusting to seeing a slightly different person looking back at her from mirrors. The woman in her reflection had the same eyes and smile, but there was something new in her expression, a depth of experience that hadn't been there before diagnosis. The children's reactions to their mother's improving health were as varied as their personalities. George, who had carried the weight of understanding throughout her treatment, seemed almost cautious about believing that the worst was behind them. He continued to monitor Catherine's energy levels with protective concern, sometimes insisting that she rest when she felt capable of doing more. Charlotte approached her mother's recovery with characteristic practicality, asking detailed questions about follow-up appointments and maintenance treatments. She seemed to find comfort in understanding the timeline and expectations for the months ahead, often reminding Catherine about upcoming medical appointments with the efficiency of a personal assistant. Louis, now nearly 6, had adapted to the new normal of their family life with the resilience that young children often demonstrate in the face of change. He delighted in having more energy and attention from his mother, though he sometimes seemed confused by the adults' excitement about things that felt ordinary to him, like Catherine being able to stay awake for his entire bedtime story. The royal household began the delicate process of planning Catherine's gradual return to public duties. This transition needed to be carefully orchestrated to demonstrate her recovery while avoiding any suggestion that she was returning too quickly or putting her health at risk for the sake of royal obligations. "We want your first major public appearance to feel like a celebration," explained the palace's communications director during one of their planning meetings. "The public has been incredibly supportive throughout your absence, and they deserve to see that their concern and good wishes have been meaningful." Catherine found herself thinking deeply about what kind of public figure she wanted to be in this next phase of her life. The experience of cancer treatment had changed her perspective on many aspects of her royal role, particularly her work with health-related charities and her platform for supporting others facing serious challenges. Her first major public engagement was carefully selected to align with these evolving priorities. A visit to a cancer treatment center in London would allow Catherine to meet with other patients and families while publicly acknowledging her own experience with the disease. The symbolism was clear: she was not simply returning to her previous duties but was bringing new depth and personal understanding to her royal work. The preparation for this appearance involved extensive coordination between the palace staff, medical team, and security personnel. Catherine's energy levels were monitored in the days leading up to the engagement, and backup plans were developed in case she needed to modify her schedule at the last minute. On the morning of the visit, Catherine stood in her dressing room at Kensington Palace, adjusting the soft blue dress that her stylist had selected for its association with hope and healing. Her hair, now grown out enough to style without a wig, was arranged in soft waves that looked both elegant and natural. She applied her makeup with particular care, wanting to appear healthy and vibrant without seeming to hide the reality of what she had been through. The drive to the cancer center felt surreal after months of private medical appointments and carefully controlled environments. Catherine found herself noticing details of London street life that had been invisible during her treatment period, when her world had contracted to focus primarily on family and recovery. The reception at the treatment center was overwhelmingly warm, with patients and staff expressing genuine excitement about meeting someone who truly understood their experiences. Catherine spent extended time with individual patients, listening to their stories and sharing insights from her own journey in ways that would have been impossible before her diagnosis. One conversation, with a woman near Catherine's own age who was midway through treatment, proved particularly meaningful. The woman expressed gratitude for Catherine's decision to be open about her cancer journey, explaining that seeing someone in the public eye face the same challenges had helped her feel less isolated during her own treatment. "When you're going through this, it helps to know that even princesses get scared and tired and have bad days," the woman said with a smile that conveyed both humor and deep appreciation. This interaction crystallized Catherine's understanding of how her experience could serve a purpose beyond her personal recovery. Her platform as a royal could be used to normalize conversations about cancer, to reduce the stigma that still surrounded the disease, and to encourage others to seek early treatment and support. The media coverage of this first major appearance was overwhelmingly positive, focusing on Catherine's evident health and vitality while respectfully acknowledging the significance of her choice to visit a cancer center. The images of her laughing with patients and staff sent a powerful message about both her recovery and her continued commitment to supporting others. In the weeks following this successful return to public duties, Catherine gradually increased her schedule of engagements, always with careful attention to maintaining balance between her royal responsibilities and her ongoing health needs. Each appearance built her confidence and provided evidence that she could fulfill her role while honoring the lessons she had learned during treatment. The summer months became a time of rebuilding and redefinition for Catherine and her family. They spent extended time at Anmer Hall, where the peaceful countryside environment supported both Catherine's physical recovery and the family's emotional healing. Long walks through Norfolk's gentle landscapes replaced the exhausting treatment sessions that had defined the previous months. Catherine began working with her charitable organizations to develop new initiatives focused on cancer awareness and support. Her personal experience had revealed gaps in support systems and opportunities for advocacy that she had never recognized before her diagnosis. She envisioned programs that would address not just medical treatment but also the emotional and practical needs of families dealing with cancer. The question of when and how to address her cancer journey publicly, in her own words, continued to evolve throughout the summer. Catherine felt increasingly confident that she wanted to share her story, but she was determined to do so in a way that would maximize its positive impact while maintaining appropriate boundaries around her family's privacy. During a family vacation in the Scottish Highlands in August, Catherine experienced a moment of profound clarity about her path forward. Standing on a hillside overlooking a landscape that stretched to the horizon, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to continue her life and work. The fear and uncertainty that had dominated her thoughts during treatment had been replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and possibility. "I want to use this experience to help others," she told William that evening as they watched the sunset from their lodge. "Not just by supporting cancer charities, but by being honest about what this journey has been like. I think there's real value in sharing the human side of dealing with cancer, even when you're in a position like mine. William's support for this decision was immediate and unwavering. He had witnessed every aspect of Catherine's journey and understood better than anyone how her perspective and priorities had evolved through the experience of facing a life-threatening illness. As autumn approached, Catherine began working with the palace's communications team to develop a plan for sharing her story publicly. The decision to wait until her birthday in the following January was strategic, allowing sufficient time for her recovery to solidify while creating a natural opportunity to reflect on the year that had transformed her life so dramatically. The message she would eventually deliver would be carefully crafted to balance honesty about her struggles with hope about her recovery, providing both awareness and inspiration for others facing similar challenges. It would mark not just the end of her cancer treatment but the beginning of a new chapter in her royal service, informed by personal experience and dedicated to supporting others through their darkest moments. The morning of January 9 dawned crisp and clear over Norfolk, with frost covering the grounds of Anmerhall in a delicate crystalline layer that sparkled in the early sunlight. Catherine woke before her alarm, as she had been doing for several days, her mind already focused on the message she would record later that morning. Tomorrow was her 43rd birthday, and she had decided this would be the moment to finally share her cancer journey with the world in her own words. The months of careful planning had led to this day. Catherine, working closely with the palace's communications team, had spent weeks crafting every word of the message that would break her year-long silence about her diagnosis and treatment. The video would be simple and direct, filmed in the familiar setting of her Norfolk home, where she had spent so much of her recovery time. William had already left early for a previously scheduled engagement in London, but not before spending a quiet breakfast with Catherine, offering his final words of support and encouragement. They had discussed this moment countless times, but, as it approached, both felt the weight of how much their lives would change once Catherine's story became public knowledge. The children were at school, unaware that this ordinary Tuesday would mark such a significant moment in their family's story. Catherine had intentionally chosen to record the message while they were away, wanting to focus completely on the task without worrying about managing their curiosity or concerns about seeing their mother in such a formal, serious setting. Catherine's styling team arrived mid-morning, bringing the carefully selected outfit that had been chosen for its symbolism as much as its appearance. The soft cream-colored sweater suggested warmth and approachability, while its high-quality and elegant cut maintained the dignity expected of a royal message. Her hair, now grown back enough to style naturally, was arranged in gentle waves that looked both polished and authentic. The makeup application took longer than usual, with careful attention to creating a look that appeared healthy and vibrant without seeming artificial. Catherine's complexion had regained much of its natural glow since completing treatment, but the camera would require subtle enhancement to ensure she looked her best during this crucial communication. The filming location had been prepared in the small sitting room where Catherine often spent quiet evenings with her family. The technical crew had arrived before dawn to set up lighting and cameras that would create an intimate atmosphere while meeting the high production standards expected for official royal communications. Fresh flowers from the estate's gardens provided natural color and life to the background. As Catherine settled into her chair, facing the camera that would carry her words to millions of people around the world, she felt a complex mixture of nervousness and relief. The secret she had carried for more than a year was about to be shared, and with that sharing would come both freedom and new responsibility. The communications director reviewed the key points one final time, though Catherine had practiced the message so thoroughly that she could deliver it naturally while maintaining eye contact with the camera. The goal was to create a sense of direct, personal conversation with each viewer, as though Catherine was speaking individually to everyone who would watch. "Remember, this isn't just about informing the public," the director reminded her. "This is about connecting with people who may be facing similar challenges and letting them know they're not alone. Your experience can provide hope and encouragement to others." Catherine nodded, feeling the weight of that responsibility alongside her personal need to finally tell her truth. She thought about the patients she had met during her return visits to cancer centers, the families who had written letters of support during her absence, and the countless people who would be watching and listening for reasons she might never know. The recording began simply, with Catherine looking directly into the camera and speaking from the heart. Her voice was steady and warm as she wished everyone watching a happy new year and explained that she wanted to share something personal on the eve of her birthday. Many of you have been wondering where I've been and why I stepped back from my royal duties last year, she began, her hands folded calmly in her lap. Today, I want to share with you what my family and I have been going through, and why I believe it's important to talk openly about these experiences. The words she had rehearsed so carefully flowed naturally as Catherine described receiving her cancer diagnosis, the shock and fear that followed, and the decision to focus on treatment and family during the most challenging period of her life. She spoke honestly about the physical and emotional difficulties of chemotherapy, the support she received from medical professionals and loved ones, and the gradual journey back to health.
Cancer doesn't discriminate, she said, her voice carrying new authority born from personal experience. It can affect anyone, regardless of age, background, or circumstances.
I learned that facing this disease requires not just medical treatment, but emotional strength, family support, and the willingness to accept help from others. Catherine spoke about the impact on her children, praising their resilience and adaptability while acknowledging how difficult it had been to watch them navigate their mother's illness. She expressed gratitude for the privacy that had allowed her family to focus on healing without constant public scrutiny. The message included practical information about cancer awareness and early detection, with Catherine encouraging viewers to seek medical attention for concerning symptoms and to support friends and family members who might be facing similar challenges. Her royal platform was being used to promote public health in the most personal way possible. I'm sharing this story not for sympathy, but because I believe there is power in honesty and connection, Catherine continued. If my experience can encourage even one person to seek early treatment or help someone feel less alone during their own cancer journey, then speaking publicly about this will have been worthwhile. The recording concluded with Catherine's expression of gratitude for the support she had received and her excitement about returning fully to her royal duties with renewed purpose and perspective. She spoke about the new initiatives she planned to launch focusing on cancer support and awareness, turning her personal experience into a tool for helping others. Tomorrow, I turn 43, and I'm celebrating not just another year of life, but the gift of continued health and the opportunity to serve others who are facing the challenges I've overcome, she said, her smile genuine and radiant. Thank you for your patience, your support, and your understanding during this journey. I look forward to the work we can do together in the year ahead. As the cameras stopped rolling, Catherine felt a profound sense of relief wash over her. The secret that had shaped every day of the past year was now released into the world, no longer hers alone to carry. Whatever reaction the message would receive, she had told her truth with honesty and dignity. The technical team began their work immediately, editing the footage to create the final version that would be released the following morning. Catherine reviewed the preliminary cut, suggesting minor adjustments to ensure the message conveyed exactly the tone and content she intended. William returned that evening to find Catherine more relaxed and peaceful than she had been in months. They sat together in the same room where the message had been recorded, discussing their expectations for the public response and their hopes for how the revelation might impact their work and their family's future. "Are you ready for everything to change again?" William asked, taking her hand as they watched the fire crackle in the fireplace. "I think so," Catherine replied thoughtfully. "It feels right to be honest about what we've been through. And I'm excited about the opportunity to use this experience to help others." The palace's communications team worked through the night to coordinate the message's release across all media platforms. Social media posts were prepared, press statements were finalized, and arrangements were made to handle the inevitable flood of media requests that would follow the announcement. Catherine's birthday dawned bright and cold, with snow beginning to fall across Norfolk as her message was released to the world. She woke to texts and calls from family members and close friends who had watched the recording and wanted to express their pride and support for her courage in speaking publicly. The public response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Social media platforms filled with messages of support, admiration, and gratitude from people who had been touched by Catherine's honesty and bravery. Many shared their own cancer stories, creating a community of mutual support and understanding. Medical professionals praised Catherine's message for its accuracy and its potential to encourage early detection and treatment. Cancer charities reported increased calls to their support lines and greater interest in their awareness programs, demonstrating the immediate practical impact of her decision to speak publicly. The traditional birthday celebrations took on special meaning as Catherine reflected on how much had changed since her previous birthday. The family gathering that evening was filled with gratitude for her recovery and excitement about the opportunities that lay ahead. As she blew out the candles on her birthday cake, surrounded by her children's laughter and William's proud smile, Catherine made a silent wish not for herself but for all the people facing cancer who might find strength and hope in knowing they were not alone in their struggle. The message had accomplished exactly what Catherine had hoped. It marked not an ending but a beginning, the start of a new chapter in her royal service that would be defined by authentic connection with people facing life's greatest challenges. Her cancer journey, while deeply personal and difficult, had become a bridge to understanding and supporting others in ways she had never imagined possible. In the days that followed her birthday, Catherine would begin the work of turning her personal experience into meaningful action, developing programs and initiatives that would extend far beyond traditional royal charity work. Her voice, strengthened by the trial of cancer treatment, would become a powerful tool for advocacy, awareness, and hope. The princess who had once been known primarily for her grace and style had revealed new dimensions of strength and purpose, transforming a personal crisis into an opportunity to serve others with unprecedented authenticity and impact. Her cancer journey was complete, but her mission to help others facing similar challenges was just beginning.